Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Becoming Impactful. Podcast is hosted by Anthony Nayagan. That's me. And today is going to be an interesting day. We are going to have Dr. Jonathan Tuck back again. Um, Now, Dr. Jonathan Tuck is, he got his PhD from Oxford University in UK, and and he is a physicist as well as he did a lot of postgraduate work on conscious energy. Um, and he is someone who is quite knowledgeable in quantum field in relation to consciousness. Um, and he's a fascinating gentleman, and you will enjoy meeting him. And today's meeting is going to be not a kind of a interview, question and answers, that kind of a thing. It is going to be more like a discussion, and we welcome your questions. And if there was anything we can answer, we are looking forward to answer it. So, feel free to ask us questions um, after you get a chance to watch or listen to the podcast. All right. Thank you so much. Uh, Jonathan, John, Dr.
Yeah,
Tuck.
yeah. So,
All right. Why don't you say hello to our audience, please?
yeah, hey, how you doing? Just to clarify a couple of things,
Uh-huh.
please call me John.
Okay.
Jonathan was usually only for my mother, for the bank manager, and for my mother when I was in trouble. She'd say,
Okay.
Jonathan, and I knew I was in trouble.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, please call me John.
Okay. All
The
right.
only thing is, I didn't technically get my PhD from Oxford. That's Oxford. Doctorate is actually DPhil. I was offered a DPhil, but I declined. I actually completed my doctorate at Oxford.
Okay.
Just to be clear, because anyone who's in the know will know that if you completed your doctorate, well, if you received your doctorate from Oxford, it's not a PhD, it's a DPhil.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
opted for the PhD from the original where I started my PhD, which was Newcastle University.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
I did complete the
The
last
decent
few
years.
years of my study at Oxford, which was a tremendous pleasure. And I really fell on my feet there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for clarifying that. Um, all right. Uh, so he has a lot of questions that we are going to discuss, and I also have a few questions for him. So let's get started.
Yeah. So I mean, if we could carry on where we left off before, because we were talking about a very interesting leadership philosophy, which you've tremendous knowledge of. And we were particularly talking about the guy who started Tata. And we've discussed this many times before, and I'm um, just keen that you describe to the audience where you see the beauty in what the guy was able to do, and why you think he became so successful, and why it's so important in today's environment to be able to study guys like him and what he achieved.
All right. Um, we are talking about the Ratan Tata. Now, Ratan Tata, he he's no more. Actually, he passed away last year, and he is the person who bought Jaguar and Land Rover, those two brands, from Ford Motor Company. And, those two brands were so ailing, and Ford couldn't do enough to get rid of them. And so, he buys it. And then he turns his company around. Um, how he did that is the most fascinating kind of a process. See, what he did was he built up a team of leaders from the bottom up. And he told them, look, tell me how you would turn this company around. Give your ideas, give your strategies, and give me all of those things. How you would turn around. Okay. Then they came back with the answer feedback, and he just went through all of them. Then he said, all right, go do it. Use me for anything you need. I'm here for you.
Yeah, yeah. I think in my experience of business and leadership, the most valuable information you can get is from the guys on the shop floor because they do it day in, day out. And yes, there may be some psychological niggles or discrepancies, but if you really listen to your staff, the guys who are actually doing the work, then you can gain some very significant insights into how to improve your processes, particularly in line with them, because you're empowering them. You're saying to them, "I trust you. I want to know what you need, what you want, how you think we can improve things." And when you do that, you're building a community rather than alienating your staff and just telling them what to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's interesting to kind of talk about this because we are in a kind of a culture uh, in which laying off people has become profitable. And so there is mass scale layoffs. Stock market loves it. And I mean, even at government sectors here in the US, there are layoffs, you see. So we quite don't appreciate the intelligence there is among the rank and file. Okay, and that is a travesty in many ways. Um, but see, this is a kind of a phenomenon or a kind of a culture which is spiritually profound. Okay, uh, Jesus preached that, Buddha preached that, even Krishna preached that, and people like Gandhi, people like Mandela, Martin Luther King, many people around the world who have in fact applied it. See, Ratan Tata, in this case, he just applied in his business, that's all. See, what it is you are building an organization from the ground up, and the leader becomes the servant.
Yes,
Okay, the leader becomes a servant. That's the way Jesus was. And that's the way Jesus even taught everybody. Are you willing to become a servant if you were to become a leader? I mean, that was his incredible question. See, it's the same formula, that we are using. It is a bottom-up kind of a thing, where the leader, or the so-called the top of a company, becomes a servant to all those people. It's a source of resources. That's what it is. You see, my resources belongs to
yeah,
you. And even natural systems around the world, that's how they operate. You see, it is the other element draws from the source element. You see, for instance, a tree, the branches, the leaves, and everything on the tree, it draws from the tree. Tree doesn't feed them. You see, tree has it, but all of these elements draws from it. You see, sun does not force anything onto it. All these leaves, it just draws from it. See, so allowing people to draw from us and thrive from our resources is the key to this strategy. Okay. And today, in a matter of 20 years, not even that, see, Jaguar and Land Rover are major brands around the world.
Yes.
They're not in companies anymore. Major international luxury brands around the world, most desired vehicles. How did they get there? See, Mahatma Gandhi used the same principle. So people have successfully applied these principles around. And it is very spiritual also. See, it is our importance. You see, the ways Ratan Tata did it, he just went to the floor and he listened to people and he chose leaders out of those people. Okay. And from there, he built it bottom up and he allowed all of them to come to him for his own resources. He extended it, he allowed it. See, in natural systems, it's not something of pumping ideas, pumping energies, pumping nutrients. Natural systems not. Natural systems, every element is allowed to draw from the resource, from its resources. That's how natural systems work.
Anthony, is there any chance you could bring the microphone closer to your mouth? You're quite quiet.
Okay, how is it now?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
That's much better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, so when I'm a little thoughtful, I kind of my voice kind of goes down and
Yes, yes, I know. I know. You
sorry
go
about
into a zone and
yeah,
and
I
and
just become too you know uh, anyway. So sorry about that, and I will try to do my best. Okay. All right. Um, and do you have anything more you want to ask me about Tata and all of that?
no, no, I mean, from my perspective, everything you've said about him absolutely resonates with my fundamental understanding of leadership and how to create a successful business. And I think that many companies use within their HR a process of high electricity with their staff. And many companies, or some companies, do that deliberately in order to keep generating new ideas from new people. But I think in the bigger picture, I mean, if you're able to empower and inspire your existing staff, then you're probably going to get a lot more from them in the longer term.
See, this is one of the things I especially talk in my coaching sessions. Um, See, there is a difference between scaling and evolving. See, when you talk in terms of three-dimensional systems, you're only talking about scaling. You're not talking about evolving. See, we need to integrate both of them in every company, in every system, in every organization, where the evolution and the scaling takes place concurrently. How do we integrate that? Okay, that has to be a major challenge and a new paradigm pretty much for every company. Even
It'll be an absolutely new paradigm because
yeah,
most businesses, particularly in the West, will operate on a 5-year model.
right, right,
And that's how there's oversight on actually building an everlasting business.
right,
The,
right, right.
the the models are generally prescribed to either selling the business as an entire entity as quickly as possible, or flotation on the stock exchange and diluting everything so that it's individually valueless, or
Yeah, yeah,
less than it would be
and
if
the secondly, and it's even more importantly, uh, you see, evolving is not an empirical process. It is not an empirical order. Okay, uh, in other words, you cannot hire the best person or HR manager there is, and and expect him to develop that evolving culture within the company. It is not an empirical thing. So the burden is on the leader of the company, the CEO, or the top man of the company. He is the one who needs to go down, to the rank and file and make that evolution happen. You see, because in an evolution, what you're doing is you are literally building conscious systems. You see, otherwise you're only scaling what you have. Okay, scaling is different. When you're in the process of evolving your company, then you are talking about adding other dimensions to the physical plane. Okay, I know you are an expert in physical plane and the conscious plane and all of that. All right, why don't we kind of talk about your expertise in biogeometry in relation to consciousness and leadership building?
Um, yeah, I mean, I immediately um, touch on your reference to the physical plane. One of the major challenges with conventional sciences, um, which quantum physics begins to evaluate when it claims that the consciousness of the observer changes the observation or reality. But it still doesn't quite deal with what are the other four planes of existence. There are five planes of existence. There's the physical plane, there's the vital plane, there's the spiritual plane, the mental plane, and and another plane I've forgotten at this point. But the point is that there are five planes of existence which in their totality describe life, describe the universe. And so what all of the foundations of everything that we experience in life or in general, particularly in the West, is founded on these sciences which are fundamentally flawed. So as much as they have been absolutely useful for us, and we've made tremendous advances by observing and measuring, uh, quantitatively measuring the physical plane, they don't take into account any of the other four planes. And once we awaken to a knowledge and are able to observe the the other four planes, then we can begin to understand everything from what's going on around you to why we're here on Earth, what our purpose is, and how we can begin to move forwards um, more fluently towards a better understanding of ourselves and of life indeed.
Yes, yes, yes. That is very consistent with modern physics. Um, you see, we are so accustomed to building physical planes through a process of cause and effect. And we sometimes think we cannot build the other planes, the spiritual plane, the emotional plane, the vital planes, and all of that. We really don't think whether it is possible to build such things and integrate them into our systems. The thing is, yes, we can, because you see, we are created as incredibly powerful conscious beings. And when we think in terms of consciousness, we think in terms of mind has something to do with it. Yeah, mind has something to do with it, but it is very little. Okay, uh, the power of consciousness is actually in the observation. See, the the more intensely we observe an energy, we can flatten that energy and make it into a matter. It is physically possible. So being able to observe it as an energy, okay, and that is called witnessing, and then come back into the observation board where you can flatten the energy and make it into a material order, make it into a matter. Once you are in the phase of matter, then what you witnessed as an energy, now it can be an ordered progression. You can. And that is the way to build systems in different planes. You see, it is how we use consciousness to flatten the energy and how we make matters out of it, and then how we make empirical orders out of it. That is how we build the other dimensions. And AI can play a major role in it because believe me, anytime you talk about order, AI can duplicate that. Okay. And it can even make it into a learning system. So the more our system is facilitated to learn, it can learn a variety of things, not just uh, not just feedback systems, but it can literally learn. It can literally ask questions and learn from it and do all of that. That sort of interaction, the systems can do that.
Anthony, sorry to interrupt again, but you've got those crickets kicking off in the background again. Oh,
Oh, sorry
oh,
about that.
it's just subsided. As soon as they must have heard me. That's the subtle interaction I've had. I was able to quieten them for you.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah,
Yeah, I think in layman's terms, what we're saying is that, um, and in line with what the great Nikola Tesla said, was that the sooner we start to observe um, the so-called metaphysical and the four other planes of existence,
yeah,
the sooner we'll make far more advancements in our understanding of everything.
yeah, yeah,
Again, in layman's terms, what we're talking about is the power of thought. We're
yeah,
talking about how significantly powerful the human being and the human mind actually is, and what
yeah,
we can achieve in harmony with others and in a way that everybody wins.
yeah.
Everyone's
It's
a winner.
every,
Everybody gets to experience the everything that comes out of what is created by the whole.
yeah, yeah.
So
Exactly,
in a
exactly.
similar sense, as quantum physics explains, we're all connected at a fundamental level.
Yeah,
And indeed, the Earth, the entire universe, is one vast symbiotic organism.
yeah,
So you could equate that to a company being a symbiotic organism whereby ideally each member or each part of that organism works in harmony with the other members in that company.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think one of the ways of um, getting to that point is by understanding the power of the five planes of existence.
And see, that is how great minds work. Great minds don't work in a limited capacity in a Newtonian order. See, great minds work in a quantum order. Da Vinci. Um,
Yeah,
I mean,
I think again in layman's terms, what part of what you're describing is exactly how um, the great people on Earth, Steve Jobs,
yeah,
Napoleon Hill,
yeah,
um, uh, Einstein, Tesla, um,
Tesla, yes, yeah,
the great minds didn't operate on one single plane. They understood
yeah,
the other planes, and
yeah,
um, again, in layman's terms, they were able to connect with an intelligence that was already within them
yeah, yeah,
by by performing some of the techniques which I know you're very much accustomed to, such as meditation or
Yeah.
mindfulness, and by trusting their own intuitions, their gut feelings, their everything that, in fact, in our modern, particularly Western society, we're encouraged not to do.
Yeah.
But they broke that mold. They said, "No, hang on. There's something bigger than this."
Yeah.
And for many people that is God. That is what many people are actually doing when they pray, when they meditate. They're connecting to that greater intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many of these great business leaders have had an intimate understanding of that already, and have been able to use that process in order to, shall we say, download information on what they can innovate on and how they can create the most amazing things. But
Yeah.
there's to to put this into context, into a Western um, uh, uh, standard civilization. In the early 20th century, Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Mhm.
Now, I'm sure many people have come across that or heard that title. But for
Mhm.
me, what was most interesting was chapter 9. And
Mhm.
chapter 9 is the one where most Western educated people go, oh, woo woo. But no, no,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill had to write his book in a way that um, didn't contravene any of the uh, uh, standard ideologies. He
Mhm.
wrote it
Mhm.
in a very special way that gradually introduced us to what many people will conventionally call law of attraction, or um, uh, a way of manifesting what it is you desire and what it is you want to create.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
if I can just explain briefly, in chapter 9 of Think and Grow Rich, um, Napoleon Hill describes how he would go into a darkened room with a table laid out in front of him, with
Mhm.
seats laid out around the table, and
Mhm.
he in his mind would put his greatest nemesis, his nemesis, the right word? I mean, heroes, his
Mhm.
greatest influences.
Yeah. The people who challenges him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. He would put these people in each of the seats, and he'd have one for each of his challenges. And he would directly communicate with those people in that darkened room in a meditative state.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is possible. This is very possible. And this is exactly what being able to access the other planes of existence is really all about, as documented by Napoleon Hill in the early 20th century.
Mhm. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there are ways of tangibly measuring um, and even quantitatively measuring the quality of subtle energies.
Absolutely. See, that is
Um,
what Einstein was talking about. When
I,
the theory of relativity comes into play, when you can create an observable relations between particles, it really doesn't matter. But it really becomes particles that can be connected, that can be related to each other. That is what Einstein's theory is. It is not a matter of cause and effect. It's the matter of how to be, how order evolved out of relationship, not cause and effect, relation. That is what Einstein's theory was. So is it possible? Absolutely it is. In an abstract universe, yeah, it doesn't appear to be like that. But in according to the Einstein model, yes, it is. It can be more. It can be made into a relationship model, and we can do all of that. So the collapsing of an energy field, is a kind of a power only human beings have. in
Your
incredible.
your voice has gone.
Okay, the collapsing of an observation or a collapsing of an energy is altogether possible with our mind, with our power of observation. See, power of observation, it really becomes effective when your mind is engaged. It's not a process of witnessing. You see, when you witness something for the person who witnessed it, truth is always evolving, always evolving. See, for instance, Jonathan met in an accident when he was young. Okay. And if I go and ask him, and that was a devastating accident that pretty much kind of uh, paralyzed his life in many ways. And he is somebody who overcame on that adversity. And probably, you might want to talk about it if you want to. But you see, if I ask him specific questions about it, he will tell me an answer today. If I ask the same question tomorrow, his answer will be different. And if I ask him the same question a week from today, then his answer will be altogether different. Okay, because the reason why is he's not giving me conflicting answers. For him, the truth is always evolving, always evolving. Whereas to an observer, the truth is settling to facts, and the facts can become orders, and you can explain the orders through relativities and all of that. You can. That's the difference between observing and witnessing. For whoever witnesses, since you are always in the evolving mode, always. Okay, it's not that you're contradicting yourself, you're evolving. That's what it is.
Yeah, I think um, you're like a tree. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think the some of the most um, successful people in life are always learning. They're never content with the place that they are now. They always want to be somewhere greater, somewhere better, better knowledge, better experience, better
yeah,
um, uh, to add to what they've already achieved or what they've already done.
yes.
So yeah, it's yeah, so in that respect, their truth is always changing because they're always going to that next level, that next perspective, that next stage in their life.
I'm going to switch to something and I'm going to ask you something that you talked about, but to kind of talk more about it. There is a frustration you are having with classical science. Do you want to talk about it?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think one of my most recent endeavors has been to study what is biogeometry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I came across I'm sitting right in front of one of Ibrahim Karim's books. This is, can you see that? Is that
No. Oh, yeah, there it is. Biogeometry.
so? This is one of his books.
Yeah.
The book that I'm particularly referencing is called Back to the Future for Mankind,
Uh-huh.
Biogeometry. And I read this book about between 5 and 10 years ago, probably closer to 5 years ago, but a long time ago. And I was absolutely blown away by um, probably every page in that book. I couldn't put it down. And this is what introduced me to the five planes of existence. This is what inspired me to further my education in studying at least the foundation level of the course. So I've actually recently completed the foundation level, and I wouldn't say I'm an authority or an expert in it at all. I'm learning.
We all
Extremely excited about what I am learning,
yeah.
and it's my intention to to continue and to do the advanced level of the biogeometry training. But I just wanted to do a demonstration for you,
Yeah.
just quickly on
Yeah.
something which anybody can do. And what I'm going to use is what's called a neutral pendulum. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you've come across mental dowsing before, using a crystal
Yes.
to
Yes.
ask a yes no answer. Yeah. So
Yes.
I mean, from a physics perspective, that is absolutely what you're doing. It's real. It's not woo woo.
Right.
The difference with this pendulum is that this is a what's called physical dowsing.
Mhm.
So you're not using your thoughts to influence or to ask questions or to get a yes no answer. What you're doing is you're using this as a physical tool to, in some cases, um, quantitatively measure the quality of a subtle energy. So, for example, I can measure my I could that length of the string is now tuned to my personal wavelength, my personal frequency,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
can make sure, yeah. So
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
now tuned to my personal frequency.
Yeah.
Now, what I can do with this is I can take, for example, a medication that I'm taking, and if I focus my attention on that medication, I can see that that is spinning in a clockwise direction and is positive for me. However,
Mhm.
what I can do conversely is to take something which is perhaps not as good for me, and if I just get it spinning on my personal wavelength,
Yeah.
and then this is a refined sugar.
Okay.
So you can see that has immediately slowed down, and it's actually going in an anti-clockwise direction, which is
Yeah.
telling me do not eat this.
Don't
It
do
is
that.
not
Yeah.
good for my
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just an example of how you can actually measure or detect um, your the subtle energy, because that's measuring my field, my whole energy field.
Yes.
And yeah, I could explain that further, but that's enough for now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, spirituality is something um, we think it is exclusive to certain kind of people. Uh, but that certain kind of people is everybody. Okay. Um, because it empowers you to become more centered in your inner intelligence in addition to your external intelligence. See, right now, we everything we do is external intelligence. It's nothing to do with our internal intelligence. So, in spirituality, what you're doing is you're nurturing and you are bringing your intelligence, inner intelligence, back into full swing. That is the actual nature of spirituality, the effect of spirituality. And it is not one of mindfulness, it is one of transcending mindfulness. Because mindfulness will keep you on the external intelligence. So if you were to go into the internal intelligence, you need to transcend your mind and become a person who only witnesses what's going on inside. Only witness, not observe, not interpret. So transcend your mind and just be in the witness mode. In other words, say for instance, imagine yourself as dreaming. See, when you are dreaming, your mind is not active. You're only witnessing the dream. When the mind becomes active, you are awake. See, spirituality is doing the same thing. How can we dream when we are wide awake?
Yes,
See,
yes.
and that is what spirituality enables you to do. And it enables you to go back to your inner intelligence in the absolute powerful being that you are. And could this power be applied in a variety of ways? Absolutely, yes. From creative endeavors to innovative endeavors to, decision making and all sorts of things. You can see. And this is where you come in touch with your own energy. You come in touch with your own intuitions. Nurture those kind of abilities and the powers you have. Okay. And then be able to apply observation so you can scale it. So your life is one of absolute quality as well as quantity. Quantity is an external intelligent factor. Quality is much more internal. So you as a human being, your quality evolves. You as a systems developer, the quality of your systems evolves. Okay. Product development. The quality of your product increases, not externally, but from an internal element as well. See? So it is a quality is what we are trying to bring in when we are trying to build different dimensions to our systems, to our products, to our policies, to our operating models. It doesn't matter. What we are trying to do is we are trying to add a certain quality of a different dimension. And that dimension can learn and evolve on its own. You see that? So
Yeah.
everybody should be involved in spirituality. Otherwise, we are deliberately trying to be ignorant of who we are, deliberately resorting to be ignorant.
Yeah. So awesome chat. How long have we been going? Should we leave
We
it?
discussed a lot. We have given a lot to digest, and
Yeah.
I think it is a time to kind of bring this to a close. So people have some time to kind of react and think and ask us questions and all that. That'd be nice.
So
So
what do you, let's leave it with a taste of for next time. What do you want to discuss next time?
you tell me. You ask me. You ask me with questions.
Well, I haven't got any written down immediately, but
we,
um,
we will come up with something. I
yeah,
think we can talk about the power of spirituality. This is where we are ending up today's session. Next session we can start with that.
perfect, perfect.
Spirituality. Why everybody should become spiritual. That is where the next paradigm is going to be like. Okay. And we will do that. Integrating spirituality into human endeavors and create systems, innovate products, ideas, everything. At a multi-dimensional level, and enabled by spirituality. That'll be a great topic to talk about next
I'm just writing that down so we don't forget.
time. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. And this
No,
is
thank you. It's been a pleasure.
yes, and Dr. Jonathan uh, Tuck. Um, thank you so much. God bless.
Pleasure.
Have